I was forced to get married at 13 years old. It was like a scar that could not heal in my life. Sometimes, I even have nightmares when I dream about those days. My name is Nalia. This year, I am 22 years old, living in Texas, USA. At the age of 13, something terrible happened to me. My parents forced me to marry a strange man. Not only that, that man was 30 years older than me. And the following story is what I went through during that dark period. That day is a day like any other normal day. I returned home after a day at school. When I opened the door into the house, I saw my parents waiting in the living room. I asked my dad, "What's the matter?" Dad motioned me to sit down and said, "Nalia, we have found for you a very good man. Be prepared. You will get married next month." I panicked when I heard that. I knew it would happen one day, but I couldn't have expected it to happen so soon. My family are all Muslims from Pakistan. We immigrated to the U.S. about 12 years ago when I was very young. From a young age, I grew up here, was able to go to school, and exposed to civilized knowledge. I understand that 13 years old is too early for a girl to marry, but my parents are different. No matter where they are still Muslims. In our culture, women don't have too much power. We have to follow the arrangement of the men in the family, including the marriage story. If they meet a man they deem suitable, they have the right to marry their daughter at any time, even if she doesn't want it. I tried desperately to beg, "Give me more time." But he refused to agree. My impending fiancé, he told me, is a fairly wealthy man in Pakistan. He was willing to pay a great deal of money for me, and in exchange, he would gain U.S. citizenship and come here to live as my husband. This is crazy. Dad is treating me like an item that can be easily traded. A few days later, when I got to school, I somehow did not understand that some people in the school learned that I was getting married and told it to the whole school. When I was walking in the corridor, there were a lot of people standing around looking at me and pointing, talking. I remember they are still laughing and mocking me. Maybe you're wondering, my teachers knew about this and surely they must have done something to help me. The answer is yes, but they could do nothing, because 25 states have not specified a minimum age for marriage. That means the U.S. law allows a little girl, 13 years old, to get married if her parents agree. I was so ashamed. The whole day, I was crouched in the corner of the classroom and prayed for the day to pass quickly. The thing that made me feel the most desperate was not the attitude of my friends, but the attitude of Zach, the classmate I had a crush on for a long time. I met him for the first time last year when Zach transferred schools here. He has a bright face and attractive eyes. I immediately liked him from the day I first met him. 2 months ago, I gathered up my courage, wrote a letter to express my feelings for him, and all of a sudden, Zach also admitted that he also has feelings for me. From that day, we became closer than normal friendship. But today, Zach treats me differently. He dodges every time I look at him. At the end of class, I went to see Zach, wanting to tell him what I was going through, but in response to my expectations, there was no word of consolation or sympathy. Zach just stubbornly told me, "Come on, you're getting married. I don't want to have anything to do with you." Hearing those words coming from Zach, I felt like I wanted to fall apart. I burst into tears, then ran home. As soon as I got home, I rushed into my parents' room, then tugged down on the hijab headscarf above my head. It is a very important item of the Muslim woman. During our lifetime, we were not allowed to take it off our heads. But I did it. I cried, telling my dad that I didn't want to get married. I would give up my religion to protest it. But my dad was so angry that he slapped me hard. And my mother tried to convince me that my family received the money from the other man. Abolishing the engagement would be like insulting him. That is a rich man. He will never forgive our family. So from there, I had to accept this forced marriage. In the following months, I first met my fiancé. He flew here from Pakistan to get married to me. My dad made an appointment to him at the town hall. This is also where I met him the first time. He was a man of about 45. He still looks older than my dad. He has a beard and his eyes are scary, especially when the man was staring at me. He was really tall when I stood next to him, and we looked not different from father and daughter. It reminded me of the Beauty and the Beast story. But sadly, I'm not Bella, and my husband is truly a monster. Not long after the wedding was held, he began to show me his evil nature. My husband forced me to leave school. Instead, I had to learn how to become a wife. I had to do all the household chores from cooking to cleaning. I felt nothing like a wife at all, but more like a servant. Not only that, he was willing to beat me if he felt dissatisfied. I've suffered a lot of beatings from him. His repeatedly abusive husband who punched me on my thighs still has a lot of scars. I was doomed to live this hell for more than a year, until one day, everything changed. At the age of 18, I found out I was pregnant. It was a little girl. But despite that, my husband still beat me every day. Once, just because I did not cook the right food that he asked for, my husband beat me alive. Even my parents were there at that time, but they just watched without any action, wanting to protect me. It was then that I understood, had to save myself, save my daughter. I cannot let my daughter be born like I was. When my husband was away, I had to call the child protection associations and tell them about all the things I was going through and that I needed their help. Soon after, my husband was arrested for violence. My parents were also punished. I also had to leave Texas to live somewhere where nobody knows who I am. Now I'm living happily with his daughter. I also found a boyfriend who is injured, taking care of me and my daughter. I have become an active campaigner against child marriage. I want American law to change. In this country, people flew to the moon, but children are still unprotected from forced marriage.
Hello, my name is Wendy, 18 years old. For almost my whole life, I've lived with my dad. I've always cherished and been thankful for all the hard work he has been through for our family. Yet, when I was 17, I realized the true face of my dad. He did something so horrific that now I still can't seem to forget it. It's like a ghost that keeps haunting me, unable to leave my head. When I was a child, I didn't get to live with my mom. All I know about her was always what my dad told me. And he always says one thing, that she died right after I was born, and then he refuses to give up any more information about her. At first, I was very surprised and couldn't believe the fact, but then I realized, ever since my mom died, he never dated another woman. Even though there's been no shortage of women coming his way, he always finds any possible excuse to reject them. Maybe he still loves my mom very much, and he doesn't want to talk about the very thing that hurt him the most. I respect his decision. Like he says, my mom is dead. We should give up the past and move on. Therefore, I stopped asking him any more information about my mom. But deep down in my heart, I still hope that one day he would tell me about my mom. Life goes on. I grow up in my dad's arms. He always cares about me and protects me. However, my dad's care sometimes can be very negative. He made his own rules and forced me to obey them. He always tried to lock me in the house so I wouldn't socialize with people. And the excuse he used is that it's for my own good. One time I was invited to Rose's birthday party, my good friend from my childhood. Because of all the fun I had, I forgot to tell my dad about this. Right after I got home, I suffered from his anger. He was so upset. He yelled at me badly. He even said that I was a bad daughter, so much that made him go look for me everywhere. Even though I tried to apologize, nothing I did could ease his fury. My punishment was being grounded for 1 month in the house. Not only that, my phone and laptop were also confiscated. He didn't allow me to contact any of my friends because he thought that they were the reason I was such a bad daughter. But I think that his thoughts and punishments were very unreasonable. However, I was wrong, so I took his punishments. I thought that when my dad's anger was eased, everything would go back to normal. But no, his obsession of control over me got worse. That day, my class organized a picnic trip. I was very excited because I finally could go outside the house for a day. Being grounded was driving me insane. I decided to wear a 2-string shirt and a cute skirt. It would be suitable for outdoor activities. But when I was about to step out of the house, my dad stopped me. He stared at my skirt and got very upset. "What are you wearing? Only whores would wear those." He yelled at me and made me change to another outfit. I couldn't believe my dad would say that to me. It was a very normal outfit, typical of girls my age. I refused his orders and said he was being too strict and unreasonable. But he didn't care about what I said. I made an agreement with his cold eyes, saying that if I wanted to take the trip, I would have to change clothes. If not, I wouldn't ever be allowed to go out of the house after the trip. Looking into his red, furious eyes, I could feel that he wasn't joking about this. I reluctantly followed his orders, returned to my room, and changed clothes. I was very angry at him. His behaviors were making me out of breath. I needed this picnic trip more than anything else to escape from my dad. I didn't answer his phone calls as well as his text messages for the whole trip. And when I returned home, he did something so horrible to me. I found out that nearly all my clothes in my wardrobe were gone. Skirts and short-sleeved shirts all disappeared. I ran downstairs to ask him. He was cutting up all of those clothes. "Why are you doing this to me?" I yelled. "All of this is for your own good," he answered indifferently. I got very angry about this. He was also furious at me and almost hit me, but he stopped. He was like a different person, angry and scary. I teared up and went back to my room. From that day, my relationship with my dad had officially cracked. I tried to ignore him and not talk to him. That made him insane. His behavior was weirder and weirder, until one day I couldn't stand him anymore. That day, my school organized a prom night party. This is the annual event that all the students expect, including me. This year would be special from the previous years because Patrick, the person I crushed on for a long time, invited me to go to the prom with him. I was very happy and prepared a gorgeous dress for the night. I tried to get out of the house silently to not encounter with my dad, but I was caught. After interrogating me about the event, he got angry knowing I was going to hang out with a guy. He didn't allow me to go out without his permission. I was too tired of him being strict and unreasonable. For the first time in my life, I didn't follow my dad's orders. I straight up rejected his words. We got into a fight. "You're such a bad parent. If Mom was here, she would never treat me this way," I yelled at his face. It seemed like my words touched his soft spot. He turned into another person, crazy and scary. He slapped my face hard, so hard that it made me fall. After that, he dragged me up to the attic and locked me in. "Stay in there and think about your sins," he yelled, then shut the door. I was so traumatized that I didn't know what to do. This is the first time he did such a thing to me. I curled up and cried. I sat in the attic alone with dust and bugs. I held my knees tight and cried loudly. Why does mentioning Mom have such a big influence on my dad's behavior, making him so scary? And what was he going to do to me? I will give you the answers on my next video. If you're interested, don't miss out.